Salutations friends, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be answering your questions, responding to comments, chit-chatty video. If you guys like these types of videos, then this will be the video for you. If not, tomorrow's video is going to be part 1 of my rose fragrance video, and it's going to be more talky too. But let's get into these comments, and some of these are really awesome and very personal. Let's go. If you guys aren't familiar with this video, these types of videos that I do, if this is your first time tuning in, hi, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the little bell so you can be notified when I have new content, and also don't forget to subscribe. But what I like to do from time to time, and I'm trying to be more frequent with it, is I get a lot of comments asking me specific questions about fragrances, asking me specific questions about reformulations, personal questions, some things like that. And I like to answer them in comments as much as possible, but some of them I feel deserve more of a verbal regurgitation from me. So today is going to be my verbal regurgitation to you guys for a few comments. Sometimes these videos can get a little controversial, so just remember any opinion in this video is completely my own, and if I speak about fragrance reviewers in general, I am using me, myself, and I and my experience. I'm not referencing anybody else but myself. But I don't think we have any perfume reviewer questions today. But if you guys have any questions for fragrance reviewers on YouTube, let me know in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. So let's go to the first comment, and it's from Charlotte Smith, and this was on my Rainbow Fragrances video. And Charlotte asks, can you do a perfume collection update? And I think I responded her saying I could, and I will. But to catch you guys up, the last time I did a perfume collection video, I had just over 600 bottles of perfume. Currently, right now, I'm in the 750 mark. And I did my perfume update video in the very beginning of the year. So I'm not going to do one for the rest of this year, but I might do one in the beginning of 2021, so maybe like January, February, to kind of give it a full year to kind of so you can really see the growth of my collection. Now, I have a lot of fragrances. Some people say, I like to say I don't have a lot. Some people comment like, oh my gosh, you have a lot. When I look to my collection and I look to how many fragrances I own, I am comparing myself to other reviewers and other fragrance collectors and hobbyists. So you don't have to have a certain number of fragrances to be a true collector and true enthusiast. You don't even have to have full bottles. You could really just love and have a lot of decants and samples, or your collection could be complete at 2 bottles and like 3 samples. I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm not judging, anybody's worth in this community based on the number of bottles or the amount that your bottles are worth. Just because I might have some high price niche doesn't mean somebody that enjoys some really beautiful, affordable scents is any less an active member and a valued member in this community. And it doesn't make their opinion right or wrong. Just like my larger collection doesn't make me right or wrong. However, I'm getting comfy, I always do. When it comes to my collection, I genuinely compare myself to other fragrance reviewers within the community and people who have larger collections. So my collection is absorbently large. It's definitely up there, and its value right now currently, and this isn't what I spent, this is if I were to buy everything brand new full price, is in the 6 figures. So I do have a very large and valuable collection. I haven't spent near that, and I've been very blessed to also get a lot of gifts too in fragrance bottles. But I'm comparing myself to people like Fragrances with Amy, who has well over 1,000, other people in the community that have like 1,200, 2,000, 3,000. So my collection to other people with larger collections is a small, large collection, but it's still a very, very large collection. So I'm very aware of that. I will do an updated collection. If you guys have any specific questions in regards to my fragrance collection that you would like to see on an updated collection video, value, my full bottles I've went through, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. My collection is constantly changing and growing. I do swap a lot of bottles. I do sell decants, but on a more personal level, like you have to contact me and ask, and I'm, you know, I don't really just go out and say, here's a shop with all my decants, although there's nothing wrong with that. I do have people that will shop my collection. I'll get DMs on Instagram from people who'll be like, I want to buy this bottle, I can't find it, or would you swap for this or sell it for this? And I'm usually pretty cool about doing that. So my collection constantly fluctuates in regards to being small and large, but currently right now it's kind of sitting pretty at around 750. But I will have an updated fragrance collection for you guys. I will definitely do one early next year, but I kind of want to not overload my channel with too many collection videos. It's also why I only do haul videos once a month. I don't want to overload my channel with too many haul videos. I like to have one like kind of mega haul video. And just letting you guys know, this month we're at like almost 35 bottles, so it's a big month for me. But yeah, to answer that question, that's going way off topic. Yes, I will definitely be doing an updated fragrance collection video. And if you guys have any questions or you want me to do it in a specific way or film in a specific way, let me know below, but that will be up January or February of next year. So this next comment is going to segue into a more involved discussion. This will be rather long, but this is something that I've actually considered dedicating an entire video to, but I really don't want to dedicate an entire video to it because I can only speak from my personal experience, and a lot of people have other experiences that vary from mine, so I don't want to give like a matter-of-factly video on this topic, but rather kind of open a discussion amongst this type of video. I thought it would be more appropriate. But if you guys would like a long, involved video on the gray market, let me know. But Kaylin Chen writes on my review for Moschino, I always say it wrong, I Love Love, and she writes, if I misgendered you, I'm sorry. Kaylin Chen writes, where do you purchase the I Love Love? It seems like you can find everywhere, but are they real? So a lot of people do these haul videos, and I love them. They're great, where they find amazing deals at places like Ross, TJMaxx, Marshalls within the States. I don't know what other places or discount retailers in other parts of the world are called, but other reviewers from different parts of the world will do those. And they're very popular because you can find designer scents there for like no money. I found a bottle of Jean Varvatos Pure Artisan for $5. So I mean, like, you can find amazing deals there. She's asking, you can find it everywhere, but are they real? So what I wanted to say first is probably 95% yes, they're real if you go to like TJMaxx or Ross or things like that. But I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the gray market, which is why I specifically chose this comment, and I hope I answered you correctly. But I also wanted to segue it into this discussion of gray market. So again, this is going to be a long video, guys, and this part particularly is going to be long. I'm going to describe to you my experience with the gray market as somebody who worked in retail and also somebody who buys a lot from gray market and loves and has relationships with sites that sell discount fragrances. So first and foremost, you can never, ever be 100% sure if a bottle is real or authentic unless you buy pretty much full retail price or on sale from a licensed retail manufacturer. So places like Macy's, places like Macy's, Dillard's, JCPenney, although I don't think that they sell fragrances like that, and even Marcus, Saks. There are certain perfume places, like perfume boutiques, that have licenses and contracts to sell authentic niche fragrances. You know, think Beverly Hills Perfumery, Perfumology, Osme Perfumery. Those are places that have legitimate contracts to sell these higher end niche fragrances. Now, when you work in retail, whether it's cosmetics or even clothing or whatever, there's when you work in operations and you work in like with inventory and receiving products and things like that and damage and loss prevention, which is what I did at Ulta, and I also did when I worked at Brookstone, I was in charge of all kind of the receiving and the sending out and the damaging. So back when the pandemic first started, there was a TikTok that went huge and kind of viral, and it was an Ulta employee destroying products that were returned. Now, whenever Ulta or any place with some type of food or that's the word I'm looking for, cosmetics or anything that's used or consumed, you're not really allowed to resell it because it could have been tampered with, but they might take the loss and take the return as part of their customer service. You can't sell those products, you have to destroy them. And so you'll see like these eyeshadow palettes that maybe were never used, but the seal was broken. We don't know if they've been tampered with. They have to be destroyed. They can't be returned. And you know, so you see a lot of returns being destroyed unless you are 150% sure that they haven't been damaged or tampered with. So you see a lot of damage is being done, and I've sat down for hours. Like I would have an 8-hour shift and I would be sitting on the floor for 6 hours with scissors and like a stapler and like a popsicle stick and whatever I needed to do to destroy probably tens of thousands worth of dollars worth of product every week. It's really disheartening. Now, that's for returns, but that's not what we're talking about with the gray market. What we're talking about for the gray market is fragrances that are past their best by date in regards to it being a fragrance that's maybe a limited edition, maybe it's a summer edition and there's a winter edition. Maybe there's new packaging that comes out, maybe they tweak the formula a little bit. For makeup, you might have seasonal releases, or skincare, they might discontinue an item. And as a retailer, and this isn't just within the beauty industry, just retail in general, to kind of describe how you deal with those things, there's like 3 things that you would do. One is you would, if allowed, discount it and put it on clearance and try and get it out of the store. But in most cases, it falls to this way. Some retailers do not want their products to ever be discounted, ever. And so what those companies will do will have a damage, and that's part of the contract with the person who's the distributor. You will have to damage out perfectly good items because the person or the person who's selling the products doesn't want them to even be considered discounted. And you see that with super high-end products. I know Burberry fell into that a little bit where they're destroying designer products because they don't want it to be part of the discount outlet market unless it's their specific outlet, and even then they have very strict rules for what goes there and then what gets destroyed. So you will have makeup items, fragrances, shampoos, sometimes styling tools, and you will sit back there and you will destroy $10,000 worth of products that are brand new. And you might say, why don't you donate them? Well, of course, we would love to donate them, but the relationship between product and distributor, it's whatever the person who sells the product wants to do with their product. So they're basically saying, you're not allowed to discount this, and we don't have a way to redistribute it, which I'll get into in a second. You have to damage it. That's the contract for selling this brand here, is that when it's out of season or no longer part of the inventory, that you destroy it. It stinks, it's a waste. I wish brands didn't do it because there's a lot of good that could be done with some of those products. And I'm talking about new products, used products. I wish I could in good faith like say let's donate them, but you don't know what people have done. You don't even know if it was in good faith. Maybe somebody had an infection in their scalp and they didn't know, and they like washing their hair and then they're putting their hair, it's like, trust me, you'd be surprised at what can go wrong. I've learned about this in culinary school. It's terrifying what can happen. And I've seen a lot, and I mean a lot, working in retail. So that's the damages. That stuff doesn't end up at TJMaxx or Ross or Marshalls or any of those discount sites that you see online. The other way that happens is that they are returned to vendor. So what this is that the companies will put out a call to get certain products sent back to them to their distribution warehouse. and this is just me speaking from my knowledge as shipping out those products, but generally it is of my knowledge that what will happen is those products will be inspected to make sure that they can be resold, and they will be sent out or sold to other places. So places like TJMaxx, places that sell discount cosmetics and fragrances online. I can't speak for the online retailers, but I can speak to things like TJMaxx and Marshalls, because I know when I would do RTVs, which is what we call them, return to vendors, I know this eyeshadow palette from Too Faced that I'm sending out in 2.5 months, because it would be about 2 to 3 months, I'm gonna see it on the shelves at TJMaxx. Sometimes we could get it cheaper there. So those items are legitimate. Now, if you look to a great example to see who keeps products and who resells products and who destroys them, as if you look at like some of the high-end skincare on some of these websites, you'll see all the same brands and you'll be missing very specific, very popular brands. That's because they don't want their brand to be associated with discount. A great example is La Prairie and La Mer. La Mer, you can rarely, and I mean rarely, ever find it on any discount site, but you can find some great deals on La Prairie from places like Max Aroma, Fragrance Net, and some other like higher end sites like that that sell discount fragrances, skincare, and makeup. So are those products legitimate when you purchase them from these places? Generally, they should be. And from my experience, they are. I've never had an issue from any of the websites I have mentioned to you guys ever getting a fake, whether it was sent to me, for free, which I would hope that they wouldn't send me a fake, but also more importantly, when I've made purchases, because all of these places that I've said, hey, I got this for free, I work with this brand, like they sent me this. I've also made thousands of dollars in purchases from all of these websites as well. And I've never gotten a fake, and I'm always very specific to check because I know that things can happen. So it should, in every sense of the word, you should get real ones. Now, what can happen that I've noticed as somebody who's worked in retail, and this is where fakes can come in. Let me just go off on a little tangent here. Let me tell you about organized crime and fragrance, because oh my goodness, what I learned working in retail. There are very real things going on, and I'm not going to get too into it, but it is impressive the lengths that people will go for fragrances, and it's really, some of the names we give these people is hilarious. But I don't know if I'm allowed, even though I don't work for Ulta anymore, I don't know if I'm allowed to go more into it, so I'm not going to. But I think we all know that organized crime can touch everything. If there's a market for it, somebody will find a way to exploit it. But I don't see that in these places like TJMaxx and Marshalls and online discount realtors. What I see when fakes happen is there's a very organized way that people will do these weird little switcheroos where they will actually buy something brand new. And I've had this happen where somebody came in and tried to return like 20 bottles of a Philosophy fragrance. And they were trying to return not so authentic bottles of Philosophy fragrance. And that was weird. And there's whole bunches of ways that people can cheat the system. But from my experience, from just where I've worked, and I've heard of this also in other retail stores, like Saks, like Neiman Marcus, like Dillard's and Macy's. This happens anywhere. If something can happen, it happens with bags and clothes and shoes and beauty items and fragrance. This is not just a fragrance thing. But what will happen is somebody, I'll use an example, somebody will buy a bottle of Sauvage, Eau de Parfum bottle of Sauvage. They will say, oh, this is a gift for my dad. And then they will not open the bottle, leave it wrapped, and they will come back and they will say, my dad already owns this, or he wanted the eau de toilette, and they will try to return it. And if you don't know what to look for, you will take the return of a fake bottle. Now, Ulta's, I haven't worked since they changed their system for returns in regards to, you know, the pandemic. But when I worked there, you would put things that were sealed, that were, the cellophane wasn't broken, you could put those back out on the floor immediately, like immediately. So I noticed that there was a few bottles of perfume that were not legitimate, and somebody was returning fake bottles. So they would buy the real bottle and they'd come back and they return the fake one. Now, if you can buy a fake bottle, say you find a fake bottle for like, you know, 20 bucks, and you can buy a full bottle for, let's say 100. I'm not saying that's how much Sauvage costs, I'm just using an example. But you could sell the fake one for, say, 80 bucks. You buy the fake one, you buy the real one, you return the fake one to where you purchased the real one, and you get all your money back, and then you have a real bottle of perfume, and you can make a legitimate 60, let's say like 50 to 60 profit, and nobody will think you're a bad seller because you're selling them authentic product. I wish I could tell you, I could only count it on my hands how many times in the 6 months that I really noticed this where I worked. And it's those items you damage out. But if the people returning the product, if they see a box and it looks legitimate enough, and the SKU, the barcode isn't working too much, but they have the receipt, and these people do have the receipts, they don't need the barcode, they just kind of go in the system and they return it, and then everything's good as gold. Not saying that's the right thing to do, but if that happens across, say, thousands of stores, and you return to vendor maybe like a few hundred bottles of this fake fragrances, and then these people think that they're buying legitimate things and then resell them and then they're fakes, that's something that I've seen happen in my store. And to me, I don't know for sure, but for me that is a more legitimate reason for these brands to be selling fakes. If you happen to get a fake from any of these places like TJMaxx or Ross or anything like that, because they're buying in good faith from a distributor that works for this company. But when you're sending these things back, sometimes I would send boxes back filled with dozens of stuff, and you only have 3 hours to pack up 50 boxes. I mean, you're going fast, you're not double checking things. So fakes can slip through the cracks. It happens again with shoes, with clothing, with luxury items, not just fragrance, with beauty items as well. So if you're asking, going back to the comment, if buying I Love from some of these businesses, if it's legitimate, you never know if something could fall through the cracks. You don't know the relationship with the distributors that like TJMaxx or Ross or anything like that has with these companies. But you also have to be mindful that these companies don't want it to be known that they are selling fakes. So if they do find out that they will swoop in real fast and they will fix it and they will find the kink, they will end that relationship with that distributor. Like, they are actually a lot more mindful than you would think. They don't want to sell fakes. They're really not going to make enough money to make up for a hurt reputation. It's not enough. The money is not enough. Even with a bottle of perfume for some of these websites, like if they get a few bad reviews, they could lose tens of thousands of dollars in business, rather than them making maybe an extra 150, 200 bucks by selling a few fake bottles of like light blue. So I don't believe, and this is again coming from my experience working in retail, that any of these retail establishments, brick and mortar stores or online websites are intentionally selling fakes. Things can slip through the cracks, which is why if you want to be 150% sure that you are getting a legitimate bottle of perfume, that the only real way is to pay full retail price from places that are licensed or contracted to be able to sell the products. That's just how it works. Anytime you buy a fake, anytime you do a swap, anytime you buy a decant on eBay, you run the risk. But sometimes the risk is worth the possibility of getting a really great deal on a bottle of perfume. I would always make sure, if you're going to buy from any place and you're going to be spending a lot of money, even a little bit of money, make sure you are buying in a way that if you are for some reason being sent something fake, being sent something inauthentic, that you have protection. So I always like to make sure that I use my American Express or at least PayPal. So if anything happens, I can say, hey, this is no bueno, and they'll take care of it. But nothing has happened, but I know that I will be taken care of. So that's just my kind of talking about the gray market. I didn't want to get too into it, but I think I talked for almost 20 minutes on it. So yeah, but that is to answer that question. Are they authentic? I could not tell you, but I would in good faith trust any of the places that I mentioned, just because I've always purchased from them and had no issues. I mean, I just bought a few bottles of perfume from TJMaxx today. So, I mean, like, I go out there and I buy it, but I also know how the operations side of inventory works. And I know and I trust specific things because of specific ways. Now, again, if you have had any negative experience with any of the stores that I mentioned in this video, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong or you're incorrect or you must not know anything about fragrance, because I'm not going to ever talk down to anybody or talk over anyone who's had a negative experience as a consumer buying something, having it not be real. So feel free below to list what you guys think or your experience is good or bad with gray market brick and mortar stores or online websites. But I myself, working with and also making huge purchases, sometimes again $1,000 purchases from some of these sites, I've never had an issue with authentic fragrances, and I will recommend them. But just because I never have doesn't mean that other people haven't. So please do keep that in mind, and always buy, just, you know, be very mindful of how you purchase, and, you know, keep yourself safe, you know, keep your funds safe, keep your coin bag safe, and your mattress money safe. And the last comment, because I talked for way too long that time, and I'm really good at talking too long. If you guys don't know, I just can't shut up. The last comment is from Bashan Johnson, and they asked, what fragrance got you into wearing fragrances? So I always talk about light blue being my gateway fragrance into collecting scents. So that was the first fragrance I bought when I worked at a beauty store with my very first paycheck, and it was between that one and Green Irish Tweed. I've gone into that story a bunch of times, but it's hard for me to decide what was my first fragrance. I've talked about this before in older videos. I don't expect people to go digging for it, but growing up from pretty much kindergarten to 8th grade, I was bullied. I used to pick my nose as a kid until like 2nd grade. I was gross. I was a gross kid. Like, I was always on my finger up there, so I got big old nose. It's fine. I'm way past that. But I was made fun of it years after. So I was always ostracized, A, for being a gross little kid. B, I'm an introvert, but I need people to like me, weirdly enough. Especially growing up, I was very lonely, but I don't know how to interact properly with people. I would be kind of more of a tomboy, but not completely. Like, it's hard to describe. I was a weird little kid. I was an artistic little kid. I drew on everything. But the school where I grew up, it was a very small Lutheran school. It was a private school. A lot of the kids that went there were rich and sporty and beautiful, and I was a weird, gross little girl. I didn't really fit, and I was made fun of pretty viciously for my entire time there. I just scratched my head, so excuse that. As I started to gain more friends in middle school, I had really good friends. So let's just say I didn't have no friends. I definitely had like a few really good friends, but I also had some friends that were mean, and they used to make fun of the way I smelled, even though I didn't smell bad. But they just, you know, found my one insecurity, and they'd be like, oh, you have BO. And I mean, I put on deodorant like 5 times a day. I had a body mist in my bag. I showered in the morning and at night. I knew, but they knew that was the thing that really got me to tears. And I mean, like, up into 8th grade, it was really bad. So my mom was always very wonderful, and she, you know, would buy me bottles of perfume because I really liked it. So she bought me bottles of Clinique Happy. She bought me bottles of Elizabeth Arden green tea. She, you know, if I ever went to Bath and Body Works and I wanted a body mist, she'd get me a body mist, you know, or whenever we would go on, you know, like school field trips, I'd always go and get like body lotion that smelled really nice. Like I always smelled all right, but smell became a huge part of my identity. And it's so weird to say that. So being teased and being bullied about the way I smelled, even though I didn't smell bad, I know I didn't, but somebody else telling me I didn't really triggered me, which is why I understand the kind of importance around compliments for some people. You might think it's not important to get compliments, but you'd be surprised how powerful those words can be for some people and their confidence and, you know, their legitimacy for wearing and buying a fragrance. Like I myself don't search for compliments anymore with the way I smell, obviously. I like to smell challenging and weird sometimes, but growing up, like if somebody had told me I smelled really good, I mean, it made my week. Like it just, smell became so important and so ingrained in who I was because it was if I was a legitimate person or not. I don't know if these people told me I smelled bad or told me I smelled good. So growing up, I would say that what really got me into fragrances and having a real love for this community, this fragrance, the olfactive arts, had to stem from bullying. I wouldn't say it's a specific fragrance. I would say it's a specific experience because, you know, I was bullied. I was bullied for being a gross little kid until second grade, and then when people stopped bullying me about that, they still wanted to bully me because everybody, you know, needs a punching bag, and I was the punching bag. So they found other reasons to bully me when they couldn't bully me about that stuff anymore. And it's rough. You know, I had very dark thoughts, very young, and I'm not going to get into that because that's not what this is about. But I can tell you that fragrance saved me, believe it or not. When I broke up with my second real relationship and then got together with John, you know, Bulgari Rose Essential was the first fragrance I got. And it wasn't like signaling my relationship with then his name was Mike to then John. It was kind of me realizing my value as a person and treating myself to something that at the time I couldn't afford. But being free of the shackles of this relationship, and I don't think anyone who's a friend of Mike or anyone's watching, Mike was a good guy and I was a good girl. We were not good to each other. We were equally very toxic for each other. I will not sit here and I will not say that it was his fault, and I will not say it's my fault equally. Just have you ever met somebody and they're a good person but you're just the worst for each other? That's kind of what it was. And I didn't realize that because I thought that my value was on this relationship because this relationship was supposed to be it for me. And when we broke up, I kind of realized that I had my own value, and I celebrated that by buying a bottle of perfume that I loved. There's a reason why Rose Essential from Bulgari is not only one of my favorite smelling scents because it smells amazing, but it has a lot of significance in my life. When I got married, I spent way more time deciding what I was going to smell like than what I was going to wear like. I went through 3 wedding outfits, 3. Not for any other reason than I just didn't like them, but I was just, this thing didn't fit right, this thing was sent overseas, but they got the dimensions wrong, and my boobs are too big, there's no way we're gonna make it work. And I just was like, I don't care, let's just go to this discount store and I'll pick something off the rack. And that's what happened. We literally like went out for tacos. I went to this little store that sold things that looked like I was kind of looking for. I picked something off the rack and I'm like, okay, you know, like, I didn't care. But my scent, my wedding scent, was so important to me. It's so important to me. And so like scent has always been the most important thing for me in regards to just, aside from like art and faith and just anything else that defines somebody, like scent has always, to my core, been something that's defined me. And so what got me into fragrances scent-wise, I would say Elizabeth Arden green tea, because wearing that growing up, I always felt I smelled amazing, and I love it. And that fragrance paired with Francis Kurkdjian opened the door to me really taking fragrances seriously. And then again, my first bottle was Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue. So to answer that question, that is, it's not a specific fragrance, it's an experience. Just because I have that experience doesn't mean that people who don't have that experience are right or wrong. I think anyone who loves scents has their own reason for really loving fragrance. And it could just be liking to smell good. That's perfectly good too. But for me, it's a little bit more than that. All right, guys, I think I've talked way too long for this video. And some of these topics are kind of controversial, so we're going to leave it here before you all jump ship and leave me alone to perish here on this YouTube aisle. But I do hope you enjoyed this video. I am, like I said, going to try and do these more frequently as much as possible. I do have a lot of interesting things to bring to you guys and talk to you guys. And I know tomorrow's video, when I talk about roses, is going to be a little bit more not on rose notes, but what rose means to me, because it does have very real significance to me, and flowers and things like that. So that's going to be another long talky video, I'm sorry, but videos after that should be back to our regularly scheduled normal fragrance, you know, stuff and things and vegetables and minerals. But I will leave this video here. Thank you so much for watching it. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you do like these types of video and content, there's a thumbs up button. If you do not, feel free to press the dislike. It's totally okay. Thumbs up and thumbs down lets me know what type of content to bring for you guys. So don't ever feel bad about touching that down vote button. It's totally okay. If you guys have any specific questions or comments you'd like me to answer in the next video, let me know below. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for sitting through. If you sat through this entire time, I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.